Hello and welcome to Concert Under the Stars, our very, very special MIFA event by the Miami-Dade College North Symphony Orchestra. I'm Professor Alberto Vade, the director of the MDC Symphony. And with me today, I have someone very, very special in this very special virtual event, the actual creator of Concerto Under the Stars, Barry Gordon, who is the chairperson for the School of Entertainment Design Technology. Barry, it's so great to have you back.
It's great to be here. It's been quite some time since we hosted together, right?
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
I think, yeah, back in 2013 maybe, 2014.
That's right.
And then, yes, and then I was absent for about 7 years, and here I am back in 2021.
It's so great, and just the moment I heard that we were going to be able to continue the tradition of this concert, and knowing that you were back at MDC, I said, I have to do this with Barry Gordon, because Barry's special because he had this idea about 7 years ago when it was initiated, and he presented it to me, and this idea of Concerto Under the Stars has become a yearly tradition here at North Campus. And you started it, and I just what gave you the idea to do this?
Well, I think it was out of necessity because, you know, prior to that, we did a couple of concerts in the theater, in the Lehman Theater here at the North Campus, and then it had to undergo renovations. So we lost our house. We said, where can we perform? We have to have music. So I said, you know what, we're in Miami, beautiful nights, we have the beautiful lake. So we set up on the plaza. That was our first
yeah, right there, just
our
right
first
over.
concert, right on the plaza in front of the Science Complex. And then, you know, people were arriving a little bit early, and I said to you know what, when you go to a concert hall, to a performance, usually the conductor or the musical director comes out on stage and they give a talk before. They do it here in Miami at the Arch. And I said, let's do that. Let's fill our audience in on what they're about to hear so they listen more attentively and they listen with a purpose rather than just, you know, kicking back and not paying attention to what it is. And that started the whole discussion, and here we are,
and
7, 8 years later.
here we are doing it again. Yeah. And we, even though this is an unorthodox way to approach our tradition of Concert Under the Stars, we want to keep as many traditions as possible, and it always starts with this opening talk with the director, and Barry would host this interview, if you will, and we basically talk music for a few minutes. In this show, what we're going to do is we're going to talk in between songs so we can inform our audience a little bit about each piece and share about what we know about the piece and its composers. But it's always an interview to begin. It's in front of the lake. It's usually when the sun is just starting to go down, still a little bit of daylight, but it's the golden hour, as we call it here at the North Campus. A very special time to be out here. So we're keeping that tradition alive, and it's so great to have you here, Barry.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's talk about what we're in store for today. Today, students from MDC North will be joining forces with musicians from overseas. Yes, musicians from Europe, members of the Madrid Metropolitan Orchestra, as well as members of the Bucharest Symphony in Romania, will be joining our students here in Miami to bring you this concert and joining us basically virtually, as all these pre-recorded, and you know, we'll talk a little bit more about the process as we go through the show, but it's one of the special things that we can do during this difficult time where live programming is not quite possible. We can still connect with others and really bring us together in ways that we really couldn't do in the past. So that's what we have in store. And speaking of music, let's go ahead and introduce our first piece, and that's going to be a piece by Antonio Vivaldi, the Concerto for Two Trumpets. Are you familiar with this piece, Barry?
Yes, I am, and I was quite surprised that we were going to start off with that because, as you know, trumpets are usually not featured in Vivaldi's work. So this one was specially written for two trumpets. You have to remember, back in the day, instruments were very different because instruments evolved over time. And trumpets back in the 1700s, they were Baroque trumpets. They didn't have any valves. So there were no, it had very limited range. It all depended on the talent of the performer's lips, you know, much like today's bugle.
Yeah, very challenging.
If you pay attention, you can hear it, and it was really to showcase the brass, which was very rarely featured in Vivaldi's concertos.
Right, and for this, we need two soloists, so we decided to take one soloist from Spain, which is my good friend Marcos Quesada, who's the principal trumpet player of the Madrid Metropolitan Orchestra. And we took one of our MDC professors. We borrowed an MDC professor from Kendall for this. He's my friend Brian Neal, and he's playing the other trumpet concerto. So we have dueling trumpets from overseas performing for you now Vivaldi's Concerto for Two Trumpets. And that was Vivaldi's Concerto for Two Trumpets. What did you think, Barry?
It was terrific, and how therapeutic it is, because, you know, we've all been isolating the past year, and to see everyone, even though they were in their own musical bubbles, but to all come together and play one piece, it's really a cathartic experience to listen to the music and to watch the musicians play on tempo.
Yes.
As one, even though we're oceans apart and separated.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of it being therapeutic, not only to the audience to experience music, but to the musicians themselves to be working on what we love and putting it together in this non-traditional way, but at the end of the day, connecting with other musicians in some way. And we discussed this actually in class, and I ran into one of my students who was a prospective music therapist, and I asked her what she thought about this, and let's hear what her answer was.
Hi, my name is Isabela Morales, and I'm a prospective music therapist. What music therapy is basically the clinical use of music in order to address emotional, physical, mental, and social issues and needs for individuals. During this time of isolation and forced separation, I feel that music is so fundamental. At first, me personally, I went through a lot of, unmotivation. But then, little by little, working this project helped me get back in the game and do what I love, which is play music. And this is definitely therapeutic for me and all the musicians that have worked for this. And this is also a healing for the audience, as they get to perceive the beauty of music, and it's surely going to be healing and comforting, and it's going to bring them joy for sure. Music, in my opinion, is the universal medicine of the soul.
And aside from the therapeutic aspects, I mean, some students approached it from an aspect of this could really help me network. And I have another student who plans to study in Europe when he finishes Miami-Dade College. And he told me a little bit about what he thought about this concert. Let's hear it.
All right, so my name is Billy Londos. I plan to study sound generally. I'm currently studying music business to segue into engineering. I think this project is really cool because there's a lot of applications to what I'm hoping to do. And seeing all this come together with people outside of the country and in Germany, I think it's excellent.
This was a very special project, to say the least, and everyone was interested. I was surprised at how many people were actually interested. I thought I was going to be bothering people, and actually no, everyone, from musicians to even dancers, This next piece that I'm going to share with you is going to demonstrate our students performing with not only an incredible musician from Romania, from the principal cellist of the Bucharest Symphony, Alexandru Dotulescu, but also a beautiful ballerina, but the piece is very special, and we chose it for its beauty. We felt like we needed to really contemplate beauty during this time of turmoil and uncertainty. We really wanted to pick a song that was just simply beautiful, and it was The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is that this is one of the few classical pieces that has been adapted and has been performed using the theremin. You know, the instrument, the
Right.
theremin is the only instrument that you play by not touching it.
Right.
You know, you never touch the theremin. And there are only 3 pieces in classical music that have been adapted and usually performed by the theremin, and that is The Swan by Camille de Saint-Saëns, and also Rachmaninoff's Vocalise, and Massenet's Meditation. So it's a truly original piece, and it's a perfect piece to showcase in this concert.
Absolutely, and it's also a perfect piece for our students to join some very special performers. We have our very own Professor Ana Rodriguez on piano. As mentioned before, on the solo cello will be Alexandru Dotulescu, all the way from Romania, and playing the role of the Swan will be Eva Maria Mihai, a ballerina who decided to join us from her living room, but nonetheless putting together the most beautiful work that we could think of for this show, The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns. And that was The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns. Wasn't that beautiful?
It's mesmerizing. It's almost hypnotic in a way.
Hypnotic. And really what's special is to see our students, which were the only ones featured there, performing alongside an incredible musician in Alexandru Dotulescu all the way in Romania, and a ballerina dancing in her living room, playing the role of the Swan and Eva Maria. And you know, one of the interesting things is that this pandemic, this time, this special period has really united us in common sentiments of, you fill in the blank, grief, uncertainty, but nevertheless united, right, Barry?
Yeah.
And I have a very special friend, and when the pandemic hit Italy, I called one of my composer friends, who's a very well-known film composer in Italy, in Rome, Italy, Michel Josiah, and I asked him about what was going on, and of course, you can imagine the responses, a lot of concern, a lot of uncertainty, and he began to compose a piece. And I told him, well, when you compose this piece, I would like to perform it as a reflection of the European experience of this pandemic. But isn't that amazing that we can connect with musicians from over there and
we are across the pond, as they say.
Yes.
And but yet we're all in the same beat. We're all driven by the same rhythm. And that's how music is made, and evidently distance is no factor for not creating a united piece. As they say, united we stand.
Yes, yes, and united we are to bring to you River of the Last Valley by my good friend Michel Josiah of Rome, Italy. Wow, and that's River of the Last Valley by Michelle Josiah. It's a big piece.
Yes.
It's a big, big piece, and quite challenging to put it together. Nonetheless, we were able to pull it off from a distance, but nonetheless united, as we had
it was
mentioned.
beautiful.
And you know, in this time of reflection of everything we've gone through, there was a piece that one day I just sat down on the piano, and all the time we had during lockdowns and quarantines, and I remember just looking through a book, and a piece that's very familiar to many, Ave Maria, popped up, and I began to read it on the piano, and I thought to myself, wow, what an appropriate piece this is to kind of reflect on everything that we've been through. It's a very sacred piece, but Barry, I'm sure you've heard it in the past.
Countless times, very, very memorable. But I have to say I was spoiled because the first time that I heard this performed, I remember it was on an old vinyl, 12-inch vinyl record. It was performed by the great opera, the Greek singer Maria Callas. And the tone stayed with me. It's one of these tones that lingers. It's something that you can meditate to. And I even remember the album cover, you know, it was a close-up picture of her hair, of course, tied back into a tight bun with the rose right, you know, by her face. You know, she was holding it on the side of her head, so you saw the rose. And I'll never forget that. I mean, here I'm talking about something that was, you know, 30, 35 years ago, and I still remember it as if it were yesterday.
It's such a memorable piece, and it's a piece that has an interesting history. It was written by Bach, actually, originally as the Prelude in C, which is just a piano piece. And a French composer later in the 1800s took this Prelude in C by Johann Sebastian Bach and added a melody and said, why not make my own arrangement? I'll put this new melody over Bach's work, and created the Ave Maria that we know today. So we're going to be performing this just as a duet. And I thought I would do it on the piano. I would perform it on the piano, and I would ask my good friend, Professor Ann Cheech Porteach, who is an incredible violinist, to play the violin solo. And I wanted to use this song as an elegy for those lost, and a song to help us reflect on this time that we've had. So here is Bach and Gounod's Ave Maria.
My name is Dante Jordan. I play the violin and I go to New World School of the Arts. It's definitely been educational. I've learned a lot of things about editing videos and editing audio that I might not have known had I just been able to play in person with people. I've gotten the opportunity to play with many orchestras virtually without having to worry about being in person, and that's been really educational because I get to learn that the orchestra doesn't start with everyone, it starts inside yourself, and I can really explore more musicality within myself.
My name's Oscar Ospina. I play the trumpet and I study at Miami-Dade College. I mean, it was very different. It was a lot of big names and a lot of different stuff that was coming at me. So I was a little intimidated, but I was excited to be part of this project and put my best effort.
My name is Marilyn Gore. I play violin. I attend Miami-Dade College. I also teach piano. Music is very positive for me because even though I was playing by myself, the fact that I can go to the instrument and play and find solace, because it was some really lonely times, and having something to fall back on was the saving grace. So I find a lot of comfort in playing an instrument. When the pandemic struck and we had to practice by ourselves, that was very difficult for me. I'm used to hearing the harmony of my partners because I play violin too, so I usually listen for violin 1 and harmonize. And then I'm playing by myself, and it was really difficult. And then I had to tape, and I am not tech savvy. So I had to do many tries before it sounded good. And there were times I was a little discouraged and frustrated, but my professor always kept me going.
Well, it's getting darker and darker, as traditionally happens in our Concert Under the Stars. So we're going to arrive now at our last piece, and this piece is very special. It's a piece written by an MDC professor, the first MDC professor that we saw in today's concert, Brian Neal. And this piece is very special because it addresses two themes, really, that were taught by Brian's father. The backstory of this piece is just a saying that Brian learned from his dad. And his father taught him when he was very young, there's a time to be still, and there's a time for action. And that stuck with Professor Neal for so many years. And later on in life, he decided to write a piece on that saying. And this is how Concertant was born. And I thought to myself, isn't that a great connection to COVID-19 and how we've all had to stay still for a while, but now we are taking action, doing what we have to do to overcome the virus.
Yes.
And slowly come back to normality. And I just thought that this was a great piece. This piece features more than just the Miami-Dade College Orchestra. It features musicians from Spain as well, from Romania, and we have actually some musicians from the South Florida Youth Symphony who are partners in many events here at North Campus with Miami-Dade College, as well as students from the Panamanian Youth Philharmonic, which is a group that I conduct pretty often, and they wanted to participate in this as well. And this program, this piece was part of a program that we had in December that we were fortunate enough to win another Emmy Award with.
Congratulations.
And this one was special because we won the Best Musical Composition for this one. And it's very special, and it features so many people, and I think it stands as a testament to the times. There was a time to be still, to be responsible and stay home, but now there's a time for action, time to do what has to be done to overcome the pandemic. And you will hear this in the music as it features drummers from everywhere. When I say drummers, I mean drummers, plenty of drummers, and that includes me.
Yours truly, yeah.
So let's hear Brian Neal's Concertant. And that was Concertante, and what a great way to end today's program.
Certainly, certainly. I see, you know, the
Yep.
sun is setting. We are truly now under the stars.
Yes, I am starting to see some stars, so that's our cue.
And it's wonderful to be here with you again,
Yes.
Maestro, a tradition that we started so many years ago and we're able to continue, and we will continue the tradition in years to come. Thank you
Yes.
for having me.
Thank you so much, Barry. And with that, we will say good night to you all. Thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, stay well. Good night.